Hey, what's up you guys? It's Simon. Welcome back to my channel. So, the windows are indeed open today, which means you guys are gonna hear lovely background noises like airplanes. Why was that on cue? So you guys are gonna hear a lot of that. The weather is just very, very beautiful today. It rained last night. It's cloudy. It's not too windy, not hot, not cold. It's just so nice and reminds me of spring. And despite the weather being so beautiful, apparently my county is on a winter storm advisory and we just got rid of 10 inches of snow and I don't want to see it again. Oh my god, I don't want to see it again. I'm so tired of winter. I am ready for spring. So as long as I'm getting springtime weather, my windows are going to be open and I'm going to bask in it, which again, like I mentioned, it means you guys are going to hear some lovely noise like airplanes, traffic, birds chirping, this random goat that me and my husband have been hearing lately. I don't know where he came from, just all of a sudden this week he started screaming. So maybe you'll hear him today, maybe not, I have no idea. But you're definitely gonna have some nice little ambiance in the background, so I hope you guys enjoy. Anyway, moving on to the topic of today's video. So recently I saw some discussion on the topic of art style theft, and it got me thinking about some stuff. And you guys tend to really like my sort of like short, rantish type videos, so I thought I would make this one and share my thoughts on the topic and then see what you guys think about it and maybe have some discussion about it in the comments down below, just because there's a lot to discuss on this. I think there's a lot of different sides to this. I think it's really divisive in the art community. So yeah, if you have any thoughts on this, watch this video first and then go to the comments and let me know what you think. Or maybe leave a comment what you think prior to watching the video and then leave a comment after. I mean, that would be super interesting to see. So anyways, getting into said discussion. So, as far as my thoughts go, I honestly believe that nothing in life is truly unique. Even us as humans are not intrinsically unique. You and me, obviously us as humans, we are always constantly, or in some cases, or constantly, consciously, or in some cases, subconsciously, being inspired by things around us, whether that's in life or in other people's work or in media that we consume, and we are always consciously or subconsciously incorporating those things into our own work or even our own personalities. But because I want to keep this video onto the topic of just art style theft in general, I'm going to focus on art style in general. So, focusing on my art style, for example, I can look at my style and point out almost every single thing in my work that was derived from another artist. And I'm going to do that now. So, starting off, the way that I paint hair was 100% factually inspired by a kiwi bird video I saw in, I believe, 2016. And actually 2 kiwi bird videos, because I was also super inspired by the one that they did in 2018 as well. Moving on to number 2. You guys might have noticed there was a recent shift in the last few months in how I paint the skin on my characters. And that is because I was inspired by Alicia Nye and I changed my process. I also got the way I draw eyelashes from Alicia Nye, but also partially from Blue Satan, who also inspired my recent trend of drawing glossy lips on everything as opposed to the matte lips that I used to draw, because I just loved watching them sit there and highlight things in their videos. Speaking of highlights, the highlights on the nose and the corner of the eyes that I draw are stippled because I saw Sarah Tepes do it in a tutorial like 3 years ago, and the highlights on the sides of the nose are a trait that I pulled from Loish. So, essentially, my art style may look unique to some person, to, you know, somebody who's never seen my art before, but each and every major aspect of my art was directly pulled from another artist. Like, while combining them together does make it, you know, it does transform it, it does make it unique. It doesn't mean that I'm drawing exactly the way that any of these artists do. That one trait of my art is drawn exactly like they do. So for example, Sarah Tepes, the highlights on the tip of the nose, there's not much of a way to transform that. but I do it exactly like that. I saw her do it and said, I do that now. So yeah, not only that, not only are you constantly pulling from other inspirations, but I, as well as I'm sure you, have probably followed hundreds of tutorials throughout your art journey, throughout my art journey, from DeviantArt or Tumblr or Instagram or like Flickr or something, any social media, you pick one, I'm sure you followed a tutorial from it. And I have no doubt that you may have also gotten a lot of your either, fundamentals or just inspiration to draw in general from those how to draw manga books or how to draw X thing that you got at your school's public library. I'm sure you followed those tutorials step by step, but would you consider that to be art style theft? I've never had somebody, I've seen people encourage you to use those how to draw books to learn how to, like for me, I wish I had a how to draw cars book because I can't draw cars. I have no idea. I had a really good idea for an illustration. I talked in my last video in my Q&A about how I had a huge, massive preacher face, and one thing that I really wanted to illustrate was a scene with Jesse and Cassidy to a song that I'd been jamming to. I don't know, it just reminded me of them. I'm not gonna lie, I think it was Insane Clown Posse. I don't remember which song it was by them, but I had, I think it was My Axe or something. I'm so sorry, but I had that stuck in my head. And the image that I had in my head was them in a truck, kind of leaning out, being silly like they do because they're dorks. And I can't draw trucks. I can't do it. It's so hard. It looked so busted. Their proportions, the scale of the car to them was not correct. The front of the car, it just, no matter how many references I pulled from, could not draw this car. So I wish that I had a how to draw cars or vehicles book that I could follow step by step, that I could learn from. And if I had taken one of those books and drawn a Ford truck step by step and completed the task, nobody would say, you're stealing that book's art style. No, they'd be like, congratulations, that looks like a truck. That looks great. You did a good job. You followed that tutorial very well. Speaking of following tutorials, so tutorials are a bit like courses. If you've ever been in an introductory art course or a fine art course, at least in my experience, one of the first things we got as an assignment was a master study. And if you've never done a master study, it is essentially creating a grid over top of another artist's work, usually a master work. So somebody like Da Vinci or, really old artists like Van Gogh, things like that they consider to be old masters. So essentially, you put a grid over top of one of their works, apply that grid to a separate blank sheet of paper, and slowly, square by square, replicate the work of that artist. The goal is for your end piece to look as close to the original as you can manage. In other words, the goal is to steal their art style. It is to copy the original artist. However, the overall intent of that goal is to not replicate it so that you can then in turn draw exactly like that master that you're studying. The intent is to learn why the original artist made the choices that they made. Why did they draw the eye this way, or that tuft of hair that way, or this clothing fold in that shape? The intent is to study and to learn. So when you see artists emulating styles of Sailor Moon or Attack on Titan or insert your favorite Twitter artist here, know that it is not as bad as you think it is. That artist is learning and pulling from the former, just as the original artist that they are pulling from is learning and pulling from their surroundings. It doesn't matter how hard that artist tries to emulate the other one, they'll never be able to fully replicate that artist's work because they are not that artist. They don't have the experiences and the influences that the other artist has. When I was younger, I wanted so badly to draw just like Loish, but I've never been able to, because not only does she have more skill and experience than I do, but we have vastly different life experiences and influences, which means that my style will always evolve differently than hers will, as much as I am inspired by her. I'm going to find other things about other people's work that also inspire me, and I'm going to incorporate that into my work as well. Or even if I was able to fully, quote unquote, replicate Loish's style, our subject matters would still be vastly different. Our backgrounds, our characters, our posing would still be vastly different because, again, I'm not inspired by the things that she's inspired by. Well, I don't know that for certain. I don't know Loish's inspirations. I'm not around her 24/7 to see the experiences that she is having and see where she pulls her inspiration from. So even if I'm able to replicate her style, I won't ever be able to create my own piece without directly looking at one of hers and then making it, you know, appear to be Loish's work, because it will, this is so hard to explain. We have different experiences, so even if I'm able to fully replicate how she paints certain things when creating my own piece from scratch, it won't appear to be that of Loish. It will just look kind of like her style, but it will be a totally different inspiration, totally different everything other than the art style itself. So it will have a completely different vibe to Loish's work than Loish's will herself. That is so hard to explain. I hope it makes sense. But yeah, like I said, it will always evolve differently than hers, and it will continue to do so for literally ever. So as long as you're making art, that's what's gonna happen. So if you're someone who, before watching this video, was very opposed to the thought of art style theft, something that I would highly recommend for you is maybe you study one of your favorite artists. Try to replicate their style and see how your piece turns out. See what things you can apply to your own work to make it maybe more interesting, or maybe make it look not necessarily like their art, but more along what inspires you about their art. And maybe you will learn something. I don't know. It'll be a fun little experiment, whether you learn something or not. A last little side note before we end this video, because I can't figure out where to work this into a script. This is kind of like a flow of consciousness thing for me that I am then reading out to you all. Another thing, if you're looking to get into the animation industry, I hope you are not opposed to art style theft. Because if you're gonna get hired on a show, whether it's to be an animator or to even be a concept or storyboard artist, you have to work within the style of the show. So I'm gonna use Steven Universe as an example because it is very popular. If you can't replicate the style of Steven Universe, you are not gonna get hired. OKKO, if you can't replicate that style, you're not gonna get hired. We Bare Bears, not gonna get hired if you can't replicate those styles. Because that's what's expected of you. It is to replicate or reproduce the show's style. And if you can't do that, how will you animate it? How will you produce? How will you produce your storyboards? It's literally what's expected of you, so you would better be ready to do that. Anyways, that's it for this ranty video. I hope it wasn't too all over the place. Like I said, this was kind of a stream of consciousness for me. When I get heated about stuff like this, I like to just plop everything down into a script and give you guys my first direct thoughts so that you guys can kind of see, I guess, like a more true reaction rather than me trying to sit down and formulate things, if that makes sense. Like trying to formulate not like a solid response, but like I don't want to overthink about things like that, because I just want you guys to get my initial true gut reaction, and really sitting down and thinking and typing a formal script kind of makes that a little bit more difficult. So I hope that makes sense. I cannot wait to see what you guys think about this, because like I said before, this is such a divisive topic in the art community. So if you have any thoughts, like I said before, please leave a comment down below, because I love getting to see how you guys interpret things. And I want to hear from you guys. So if you have any thoughts on this, please leave a comment down below. Speaking of things that are down below, there are all of my social medias, as well well as my Patreon, where you can get shoutouts alongside awesome people like Elise Thompson, Duran, Mandy, Sleeps, Crookie, Created by Twins, Shannon, and Deson Doodles. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for continuing to support me every single month. This month's theme for Patreon is Pastel Celestial, because I have given up on doing like month related themes because I can only do New Year's so many times before it starts to get boring, and by so many times I mean twice. I can't do it anymore. So last month, I believe I still did something along the theme of New Year's, but it was a little bit more of a stretch. And then once I got to February, I was like, I'm not doing Valentine's Day. I'm doing whatever I want. Obviously, I'm still going to have the polls up. It's just the poll options are related to what I'm into at the time. And right now, I was really inspired by like pastel sort of themes. I was really inspired by the 90s, and I was really inspired by pastel, like celestial kind of decor fashion thing. I don't know. And Pastel Celestial won the vote, so that is what I've been creating rewards for. You guys saw the sketches for them this month. I refined the line art. Obviously, the print, or the printable, the download, should be up now as well. Next week's video, or this week's video, today's video. I forgot, that's what I was filming this voiceover for. Today's video is me coloring in the line art, which I am obsessed with. I tried a new thing for the eyes. I've been seeing a lot of art. There you go, another instance of me being inspired by other things and pulling them from other artists and incorporating them into my art style. I saw a few artists on TikTok do the iris as like an airbrush rather than a solid circle, and I was like, that's gorgeous. I'm gonna do that. I think I did it once in last month's I think last month's print also did that as well, and I really liked how it turned out, so I tried it again for this video, and honestly I'm obsessed with it. I don't know if I'm gonna fully incorporate it into my style, but definitely when the piece calls for it, I've been enjoying adding that to it, and that's what I did today. So I hope you guys liked it. Sorry about the mini rant at the end of the rant. I'm really excited about Patreon and stuff this year, so if that's something you're interested in, you can get things like digital downloads for as little as $1 a month, which also gets you those shoutouts alongside those awesome peeps. You can get physical rewards like stickers and prints. You can get more fancy rewards like the line art, which is not as fancy as the physical rewards. Stream of consciousness is so hard. Anyways, I love you guys so much. So excited to see what you guys think. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.